Hi, my name is Fatha. Being black and gay made me ambitious.
Fatha and I met up in a greenhouse in central Gothenburg, where Fatha chose to share his thoughts on how being black and gay made him ambitious. Let's start from the beginning.
So my name is Fatha. Like Cher, I only have first name. No, I'm kidding. My name is Fatha Hassan. I'm 37 years old. I'm from Somalia. I was born in Somalia. And me and my family, we came to Sweden 1995 and moved to Västerås. So that's the city I grew up in. And then I grew up and started studying in university called Mälardalens University in Eskilstuna. And so from Eskilstuna I worked in Katrineholm in a short period, and then I moved to Gothenburg around 2015. Yeah. So now I live here.
This driving force within him has been there since he was very young.
I think for me, from the get-go, I think, because I'm the oldest, I've always been very focused and ambitious. So for me, school was very important. Having a good education, having a good job. And so that's kind of the red line in my life, being very ambitious. In some way, I feel like because we live in a society where the norm is not me. I'm black, I'm gay, and not a lot of rooms are allowed. And so for me, it always has been kind of a kick being the underdog, so to speak, and to show the world that I can also make a change in the world.
And he has always had this sense of being excluded in a way.
I think from when I was a child, I understood that I'm different and that I have to work 10 times harder than the average person to get the same opportunities. I think that's I've always been like in the back of my head. It's sad, but also, it's difficult looking at Sweden from outside. It's a country where there is a lot of good work done in terms of equality, but there is a lot to be done too. Still, I think it's a process, So we all need to work together to get that, and I think it's not a step you take and then you finish. It's a continuous thing to work with when it comes to equality, really. I don't know, this is my experience, but I think that to me, being an immigrant and black and gay, I think that somehow that made me feel that I need to really focus on school. School was the path to a good life. For me, that was very important. That was like the focus I had. And being an immigrant and not knowing Swedish so well, it's frightening. And so for me, it was like, I took school very serious. And so it was studying from Monday to Sunday after school and making sure that I always was a step ahead. Especially in university, it was kind of like working a full-time job, studying. And I don't know if my colleagues in school did that. But for me, I felt I had to do that in order to go ahead. So I studied a lot.
His studies led to him now being a boss for a couple of homes for people with special needs.
Maybe it's how I am as a person, but for me, career has always been very important. I'm a very career-oriented person, and so becoming a leader was first thing I thought of when I studied sociology. To become a leader, you have to have some qualities, but also really work hard. And so for me, it was preparing for that role. It took me about 4 years, and those 4 years was about reflecting, what kind of a leader am I, how can I express rules in a way that is understandable, just finding my own leadership. And I don't know if that's a normal thing for people to have 4 years to prepare, but for me, I thought I want to do a really good job as a leader. So it was good that I gave it 4 years before I became a leader. Yeah.
He has some interesting thoughts about the gay community.
So the gay community is not homogeneous, it's a very diverse community. For me, I feel the gay community is very inclusive, and the rest of the society can learn a lot from the gay community. But that doesn't mean there is challenges in the gay community in terms of acknowledging that we are a minority. Some of us can take the thoughts that have been for granted and kind of forget that, you know, we haven't always had these rights that we have, and some of us can take that for granted. So for me, the challenges within is about facing that the work needs to be continued. We're not done yet. From that perspective, the gay community has its own problems, so to speak, and also problems in terms of seeing what challenges we need to face and the discussions about that. So that's how I see our community. It's a work in process.
And Fatha wants to be a part of changing the gay community and society as a whole for the better.
So being ambitious is also wanting to change the world for the better. That's very ambitious. But also I feel like I'm realistic in those ambitions in terms of, you know, I can do my part. And so I'm involved in West Pride. That's a part of, you know, a way of trying to change the world in terms of you know, fighting for the rights of our community. And for the future, I hope to be more involved in issues that concern our community. But it's also been, you know, dividing time and having a balance in life. You don't have to, you know, you don't want to be in a situation where the only thing you do is just work. So that's my ambition in the future. Step by step, give what I can, and not only, you know, get into changing Sweden, but also the world, really. Yeah.
To sum up, these are some words from Fatha to you if you're watching this as a young queer person of color.
Oh, I want to say that it gets better, really. I mean, we all have coming out story. You know, that's really something I noticed. You know, I used to do like a weekend travel in Europe, and wherever I went, the gays knew English. It's like we are very divided in that and very aware of the world in that sense. But to a young person who is of color, I would say that it's gonna be okay. You know, it's okay to be you. And even if you find yourself in a situation where it's difficult to be yourself, there will always be other situations where you will have support. You know, there's always support. That's the lesson I learned in my life, you know. Coming out to my family wasn't a big deal as I thought, but I can imagine for others it can be. And so I would love to help or to support someone who is in a difficult situation, you know. And so that's what I would say. It gets better, really.
If you enjoyed watching that video, please like, comment, subscribe and share the video. I really appreciate you showing your love in that way. If you also want to support the channel financially, that's possible via Patreon, but really no pressure. See you next time!